Hey, what's up, fellow cyclists? So we got in the first ride on this here world's latest Trek checkpoint. So I've always wanted a fast gravel bike, and I never bought one just because they were so darn heavy. And if you check out the other vids, you'll see how much this thing weighed stock, and framed it, and every single bolt and screw on this thing is different. So check out the other video for the build, but basically everything, this is nearly as light as you can possibly get one of these. I didn't make a whole lot of concessions for performance versus weight. You know, I'd rather have something that performs than something that's, you know, chintzy or just the wrong gearing or whatever for weight's sake. So these are pretty darn heavy tires. Theoretically, I think I could have this bike at 6.5 or 6.6 kg with an ultralight tire setup, but then I'd be making a compromise. So anyways, this is a ML size. Trek changes their sizing around and recommendations on the website. So what I'm gonna recommend to you is if you are between 5'11" and 6'2", do not buy a large on their website. For sure, get the ML. This has the exact same riding triangle as you see it here as my 58 centimeter Madone SLR9, and it feels, you know, basically the identical, other than the bars are a little bit higher. Couldn't get the bars to go any lower without making a custom spacer for the thing, and didn't want to, you know, jump through those hoops. This is already the 3D printed one, and to make one that's ultra low to gain an extra like 5 millimeters of drop, I was like, all right, whatever, we'll just have the bars be a little bit higher than I like, because it's a fast gravel bike, so it should be slightly more relaxed than my ultra aero, you know, speed machine. But anyways, this thing has crazy tire clearance. So these are the 40C, where are we at? Continental Terra speeds. I ran them at 50 PSI front and rear. And you could tell there was compliance in the tires, but there was zero throughout the frame. And I've run these bars and these wheels on other stuff, so I know how, you know, the wheels and the bars behave. But this is a super, super rigid frame. So make no mistake about it, this thing's emphasis is not on comfort, it is on speed, for sure, 100%. Unless I got some random one that's, you know, got a different layup where the weaves are going in different directions in different areas to make it, you know, ultra stiff and rigid. You know, that's how this is. I was definitely not blown away by quote unquote comfort and compliance. As a matter of fact, I would say this thing, I'll maybe swap the wheels and put, you know, my Pinarello wheels and tires on it and take it for a quick, you know, like a 3-mile spin just to see the difference. But I would say this is probably comparable to the Pinarello I have as far as comfort. So, I mean, it's not bad by, you know, any stretch of the imagination. It's, you know, totally comfortable, and I would definitely rip this thing on the gravel, but I was expecting this thing to ride like a lazy boy, and it definitely does not ride like a lazy boy. I was basically thinking, all right, this is gonna be, you know, I used to race XC mountain bikes on the Scalpels, the Cannondales, and I thought this was gonna be, you know, super fast, super efficient, but it's gonna feel, you know, kind of like, you know, wallowy. The bottom bracket is gonna, you know, flex when you're really putting the power down. I'm coming off, I haven't ridden a bicycle in 158 days. I've been basically bedridden for the most part. And then the day I came back to America, I broke my foot. So it's just been like one thing after another. And then earlier in the year, I took, you know, nearly 2.5 months off. So this has been the worst year ever for performance. And this year I was gonna try to break 400 for 20. But there's just no way on earth that's gonna happen for 2025. Anyways, back to the review. Vertical compliance, I mean, for a gravel bike, this is going to be on the stiff and rigid side. There's just no way about it. I haven't ridden any other gravel bikes, but this thing, you could legitimately road race this. This could be a crit bike. The frame set, I believe it was exactly 2,000 grams. So it's not, lightweight. So they probably built this thing to be a mountain bike to take down a set of, a 30 flight of concrete stairs and other stuff, so you can't possibly break it. And it does have a really robust feel to it. And when you put the power down, it accelerates. And I wasn't putting out big numbers, because like I said, I'd been basically bedridden for 158 days. So I was only able to put out like 550 or something seated, and low fives anyways, just pulling away from red light. But even riding around 150 to 250 watts, just jumping it up 100 watts real quick at 25 to 30k, this thing rockets forward with every single pedal stroke. The crankset's really stiff, it's really smooth. I had the 48 on there for the build. I put it on the 46 because I knew my power was going to be down 150 watts or so on average. And I was, right on the money with where I thought. I was right around 200 watts is pretty much all I could do in the, worst case scenario. Totally bonked, didn't eat at all for 18 hours. So had 0 carbs in me. I'm also vegan due to having kidney disease and another issue. But yeah, so worst case, with those kind of power figures, I showed the gearing in that other YouTube short. This is running in 11 to 34, and you're just running on the, the 19, 17, and the 15 cogs. If you're riding around, 28 to 34 kilometers an hour, you're right exactly in the middle of the cassette. The chain line's perfectly straight. And, just going up my driveway with this, the 46 and the 34, you can crank a wheelie so easy. It's not even funny. So I think as long as your legitimate FTP and your legitimate, ride speed on flats is between like 25 and 35, or your FTP is, under 250 watts, then this is the absolute perfect gearing to basically do anything you want on a bike, as long as you do not live in a super hilly area. That said, I've also lived in Pittsburgh, which is one of the hilliest areas, and I did climb one of the steepest climbs in Thailand with my Madone, which was a 34 up front and a 30 rear. But at that time, my FTP was, 360-ish. And doing 500 watts for 2 minutes will get you up pretty much any hill. So would I recommend this crank set? Absolutely. It is not expensive, and it is nearly as light as my ultra expensive one on my Madone. As far as this cassette goes that I showed in the one YouTube short, it is 50 grams lighter than the Shimano. And if you're used to riding new, like current gen 2019 plus Dura Ace, the Di212 speed, it does not shift that good. It's under, when I was cruising at like 150 watts, you couldn't tell it was shifting at all. It was, perfectly smooth, but and right up to around like 200 watts, it was shifting really good. Definitely, on par with like 105 if you're running a 105 chain or something. This is a Dura Ace chain, obviously, because that's all I run is the Dura Ace stuff. But when you try shifting this above like 350, 400, and 500 watts, up or down shifting at a 80 to 95 cadence, it's definitely not bad, but there's just no way to say it. Shimano shifts like unfrickin' believable. It's just snicks through the gears. If you're running the Dura Ace cassette at like 700 watts seated or 1,000 watts seated, where you're not worried about, skipping a gear and going over the bars, nothing competes with the Dura Ace. cassette. And I've run the other billet aluminum ones, the all billet steel ones that were from the UK. They were also light, and that's why I continue to run the Dura-Ace cassettes on my Madone. To me, it's worth having the extra 50 grams of weight on the Madone. If you're really putting out the power and you absolutely need every single shift to be perfect, don't mess with it. Just stick with the Dura-Ace cassette. However, this thing's light. If you're not, shifting above 300 watts like all day long, because you're riding at like 360 to 400 for a 1 hour time trial or something, then you can consider one of these for sure. And if you're just an average guy, totally check these out. It shifts great, and in my opinion, this, for how much I'm ragging on this right now, where it sounds like maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, this shifts better than any of the new SRAM stuff. So I think SRAM shifts like garbage. Let me know what you think in the comments. I've tried it, more than once, and it doesn't shift well at all. And that's not just talking about the time delay after you initiate the shift at the shifter, and then the time it takes for it to do it. It's the actual shifting itself is sloppy compared to Shimano. But yeah, this shifts at least as good as the Campagnolo, and this shifts at least as good as the SRAM stuff, but not as good as Dura-Ace or 105 when you're putting power down. So no complaints there. Seat, I've run that saddle on a bunch of stuff. Here's my iPhone mount that I use to record that data. And I really can't think of anything else. There's really nothing to complain here. I did have this bike listed for sale because I've got, 3 bikes, and like I said, been injured and been off the bike for quite some time. So I figured if somebody wants to buy this, they can buy it. But I've changed my mind. This is definitely no longer for sale, because this thing is definitely a keeper. Once my foot finishes healing up here, probably another 2 weeks realistically, and I'll be able to start doing interval training and start really cranking with it and pulling up on the pedal. At that point, I'm gonna ride it through some grass, ride it through some sand, and actually start riding it like a gravel bike, and I'll report back. At this point, and probably for the next week or two, it's gonna be basically lightly ridden, and I gotta wait for my 5th metatarsal to finish healing. So would I recommend one of these? If you've got money and you're watching the channel, I would say definitely do not buy anything Trek sells for the Checkpoint. That's an off-the-rack bike. Build your own. But yeah, really have to jump through hoops like I did. They only sell the ugly frames. Sorry if you bought one of those weird colored other ones. The camera doesn't do justice in here, plus I don't know what I'm doing, taking videos. So that doesn't help. But this car looks amazing in person. The only way to get it's to buy the base model. And so you're stuck, paying a lot of money for basically junk parts on the bike. Every single part that it comes with is junk. So I literally bought it for the frame and changed every single thing on it. So if you got the money to do it, you're going to be looking at about $6,500 to $9 grand to set it up similar to this. The wheels are the big money thing here. So then the Dura-Ace, the crankset's, dirt cheap, same with that cassette. But, you can build a bike that's, full kilogram lighter than the Checkmate for like $3,000 to $4,000 less, just like this. So I think I alluded to it in the other video. I really wanted the Checkpoint, but I didn't want to buy, the frame set there when I thought I could get this one, basically illegally light as a UCI bike. So if this was a road race, I would just change the tires and I'm back down to, around 6.6 kg, not changing anything else on it besides putting the 48, chain ring back on and maybe dropping the cassette to the 11 to 30 version, and boom, you've got a legitimate road race / crit bike. and I put the 40 cm bars on it. So, you know, if you're looking for a fast gravel bike, I really don't think you can beat it. So the only thing I did that people think is weird is, you know, the gearing choice I went with, but you know, I expect my FTP to jump up at least 100 watts here probably in the next like 30 days. So as long as I'm back over 300, I won't be too miserable, but I got to stop riding in the twos. So stay safe out there, guys. If you're on the fence, you know, buy one of these things. Maybe do some gravel riding. That'll keep you away from all the cars and all the idiots out there. And, you know, just eat right and take care of yourselves.